Hi folks, Kieran here again, hope you're all good. This is a response video to Noelplum99's video, which is called Coronavirus, hang on a second, Corona Lockdown rather, discussion and update. Hope you're all good. I'll address my comments to Noelplum99 himself, but this video is for everybody, and anybody's welcome to respond to this and so on. Anyway, hope you're all good. I'm doing this video with the family in the house, which I don't normally like doing because it's a bit embarrassing, and but they're in a separate room, so I don't think they can hear everything I'm saying. Also, it's a bit of a pain because the kids might come in the middle of the video and have to start again or so on. Okay, so Noel Plum's done some interesting videos on the coronavirus. You've certainly provoked my thought on the issue. I'm very much of the opposite, or not completely opposite, but very much into having a sort of Chinese style, sort of Wuhan style lockdown, and sort of clearing the streets and doing everything we can to stop this virus spreading. That's certainly been my opinion. It's still my opinion now. Your views are a little bit different to that, a bit more nuanced, and certainly, provoked my thought. I haven't changed my opinion, but certainly got me stopping and thinking a little bit. So I made a couple of notes from your video. So you were saying some stuff about some police advice. Police were advising people to cycle near their homes or something, which seems a bit counter-logical, if that's a term, which it isn't. And some other advice from the police you quoted, which seemed a bit silly. And also you quoted something from the politician Nicola Sturgeon from Scotland, who was saying, like, we're going to do all we can to save every single life in this. And you pointed out, and I agree with you, that you can't, like, bankrupt the world to save one person. So there is a balance to be struck between quality of life for the people living and saving lives. So I agree that was a little bit of bullshit on their part. And also I hadn't heard of those comments or those incidents, so thanks for letting me know about that stuff. That was all very interesting. But my main take on this is not, I feel that you're worrying about some slightly minor details of the whole thing. I think if you have to do a lockdown or something, I think there are going to be silly officials doing some slightly silly things, and we have a country where we have politicians, and it's pretty easy to find some bullshit or people pleasing kind of comment on the part of a politician. Those things are pretty normal, or normal reactions to an abnormal situation. What I think is the main issue is that the government has really failed to protect the people here. I think that we're looking at numbers of deaths in the UK per capita, like 100 times what they've had in China, 100 times what they've had in Australia, and they seem to be on top of these things. The virus there. I mean, it's not like there's many more deaths to come in those places, where there are more deaths to come here in the UK. Western Europe seems to have got it really, really hard. I'm not quite sure why, whether it is like political decisions on the part of those countries, or whether it's some other factor, like a worse strain of the virus, or some environmental thing, or something to do with the people not being less immune to it or something. But I think most likely it really is just the decisions of the politicians in those countries, and maybe the reason it's affected a region rather than one country is that the borders have been kept open. I'm not sure about that actually between the European countries, but I believe the UK has kept borders open with the rest of Europe, so their rates can affect our rates. But I'm not exactly sure why countries like Vietnam and Uruguay and millions of other countries don't seem to be getting so affected, whereas I would have thought that some of these countries would have got it a lot worse than Western Europe, which is a pretty advanced, well-organized place with a high life expectancy and good health service and so on. So it's a bit mysterious, but yeah, the main point is, I think, I mean, okay, you rightly raised that raised the point that there is a dilemma between like the measures, what damage the measures will do, and what damage the actual virus will do. But I think some things that the UK government have failed to do would have kind of helped in both areas. Like, okay, so testing, they kind of abandoned testing for a bit, and then they tried to do more testing, but we still haven't had as much testing as other countries. That's bad organization. I mean, that's bad management. And if it's from scientific advice, I mean, the buck eventually does stop with the political leaders, I think. But we can also blame the scientists if they were saying stop testing, because I don't think that was very scientific of them. What else do they do? There was a bit of a no-brainer they should have done. Contact tracing, yeah. So tracing people who've met people who've got the symptoms. Yeah, they don't seem to be doing that. They're still not doing it, and it seems to be a no-brainer. I mean, China did it. They smashed new infections down 70% in 2 weeks, I believe. In South Korea, they did it pretty amazingly, and they knocked new infections down 90%, I believe, in 2 weeks. Other countries, I believe, I forget which other countries are using this. It seems to be a major tool in the armory against this thing. It's also the only way to stop the virus spreading after we relax the lockdown. So we just have to have this tool, this weapon against the virus. It's really madness, I think. And I don't know much about these things, but it just seems common sense, like this tool that does isolate people with the virus. Like, why are we not doing that? The other thing is shutting borders. UK doesn't seem to have closed borders at all, as far as I know. I don't know the details. I was unsure about this a few weeks ago even, but it seems that the borders are open, and we could have closed borders, or we could have tests at the borders, or we could have forced quarantine. I don't think this would be a huge civil liberties sort of issue. It's really just a huge freedom issue, perhaps I should say. It's just a pretty minor effect on people's lives. I think only people flying in and out of the country would really be affected. And you get loads of security checks at airports anyway. Yeah, it'd be a bit of extra stuff on that, but it wouldn't affect freedom or cause people to have mental health breakdowns too much, I don't think. So some real no-brainers they didn't do. We can talk about other things they could do, like lockdowns in general, with the freedom versus saving lives issue that you rightly raise. I mean, I agree. I mean, I was thinking sort of back of an envelope calculation on my part is that this virus, even if it kills 1 in 1,000 people, which is, we're not anywhere like there yet. We probably will get there maybe, but if it kills that many, then it's still only knocking 3 days off our lifespan in the UK. So how long would you lock yourself down, keep yourself in your house to add 3 days to your life expectancy, and to not remove 3 days? I mean, you wouldn't inconvenience yourself that much, would you? I wouldn't. Thing with coronavirus though is with any pandemic, it doesn't seem to be. It's not really about how many actually died now, because we did have a lockdown. If we have to do, we kind of have to do the measures at some point. Any measures we're going to do, we might as well do straight away, basically, because the virus grows and grows until it reaches a kind of maximum natural point, which is unacceptably high. I think we all agree we don't want hundreds of thousands of people dying. That's like knocking a month off a life expectancy. It was worth locking down for a month in order to gain an extra month of life, kind of thing. Also, it's a little bit nastier than all of us uniformly sort of getting a month knocked off our lives. It is like some people die now and the rest of us don't die at all. So it's a bit more sort of morally unpleasant than that. So yeah, I think we have to stop this virus. It is worth the measures in general. If you're going to do the measures, you should do the measures straight away. As soon as the virus is, starting to, in your country, you should try and get that reproduction number down below 1. Later on, the measures are going to be just as hard, but they're going to save less lives the later you do it. So the UK has let the virus grow up the orders of magnitude. So we've ended up having up to 1,000 killed every day. So I personally think, based on the kind of things I've just said, that it is worth locking the people down, unless we really manage to get the reproduction number down through contact tracing at the very start, and that was clearly working back in February based on the very low numbers that were in the country, then maybe we could have avoided a lockdown altogether like they did in Korea. But I feel that Korea should have done a lockdown anyway. But then we got an issue of intensity of lockdown versus a low intensity of lockdown and probably a longer lockdown. So if you can really smash the reproduction number down, you can you don't have to lock down for so long. Also, what's going on in the UK right now is we've got a lockdown. We have reduced the reproduction number down below 1 by the looks of hospital admissions and people dying of COVID and stuff. But it's not going down that fast, so we're going to have a longer lockdown, and also more people are going to die because obviously, the faster we get the lockdown, get the reproduction, the lower we get the reproduction number, the more lives we save still, because there's still large, significant numbers of people dying. So for those reasons, I think we should do a harder lockdown now. So what should we do? Basically, we've got this exercise thing. I don't believe you need to go out of the house to exercise. I don't believe you need to exercise in a given month in your life. I don't exercise at all. Just don't believe it's that big a thing. And for some people it might be a real mental health thing, and then we can sort of deal with them. Maybe let them out. Sort of police can give them sort of permission to go out or something if it's really important to them. But I think for the general public, really staying in the whole time is possible. Also, another way we can get the reproduction number down is delivering food instead of people going to supermarkets. People are going to supermarkets now. Maybe some of them are keeping their distance. Maybe some of them are not. Pardon me. And delivering food seems to be a really good way to make sure everyone gets food and to make sure people have minimal contact with one another. Is going to the supermarket this important freedom? I don't know. It's a chore to half of us, isn't it? Maybe it's so valued to some people, but getting food delivered wouldn't be that bad. The government's just shown no imagination and doing things a bit differently. Like we could deliver food to everybody. It's entirely possible, especially when we got all the people not doing essential things, not doing things, which is what we should definitely be doing. Not quite what we're doing now, where people are still delivering letters and stuff that doesn't really need to happen. Also we could get all the essential workers going to work in cars. And we've got loads of cars not doing very much right now. We can seal off the back seats from the front, sort of air-wise, using some plastic sheets, and we could just pay people to drive people to their essential jobs. and then we'd get people off the public transport entirely, and then we probably could shut down the public transport, I guess. So those are things they could do now to just get that reproduction number down faster. Then we can end the lockdown faster. But also in the long run, you really, the contact tracing thing, like South Korea, what South Korea did is the only medium term thing to do. I mean, that's how we get out of this thing, and they still don't seem to be talking about it. So there's real problems with the way the government's dealing with this. So look at my notes a sec. Yeah, okay, so a couple more points. One minor point, I guess you made, just Keir Starmer has been pushing the government to do dates on the end of the lockdown and stuff, and I agree that, yeah, that is wrong. They shouldn't be pressing the government on that. It's not about a date. It's about a certain level of risk out there. It's about only release the lockdown when you've got this contact tracing thing in place. So it's really all about that, not sort of dates and plans. And the other thing, I've said this in a previous video, but they really cocked up the economics thing, where there are people like in real economic need to work, and they had to choose between, or they still having to choose between, like, not being able to pay the rent and risking spreading this virus or getting the virus themselves, like giving it to their relatives. They should have done, again, use a bit of imagination, have some universal income, or a complete rent holiday, or I would have just stopped the economy entirely, just deliver food, and we don't need money for a month or two. That wouldn't be everyone's cup of tea, but I think that would be the simplest and most effective way to do it. But anything where people don't fall through the cracks. Okay, you mentioned something about the 2008 recession caused massive debt, which caused lots of deaths. I've never heard about this before, so that's really interesting. I don't know if you're talking about the austerity measures there. I assume you kind of are. Yeah, you may have a point. If we are committed to a certain percentage of our economy being spent on life vital sort of essentials, and then it's the rest on luxuries, basically. If you're committed to that sort of figure of, let's say, 40% or something is on essentials and whatever, then yeah, if you have like a economic problem like the lockdown, then you will have less money, and therefore if you're committed to that figure, then you are going to spend less money on essentials, therefore people are going to die. My sort of gut feeling as a lefty is like, we don't do it that way. We keep the essentials going at the same level, and we'll skimp on the luxuries. But maybe you might have a point that if you do skimp on the luxuries, that does end up being some sort of tax on people, which might get them reduce incentives to work or something, which might in the long run, in the end, get your pot of money for your health service and stuff in some way. My guess is to try and save the lives first, and then figure out all that stuff later, to be honest. I think that we can probably save, I don't know. I think you might have a point. I can't completely dismiss that idea. I think we should try and put a really high priority on saving lives, and in the long run, yeah, just try and protect lives. But yeah, you got a point, because it isn't all about morally. You do have to balance lives versus quality of life of those living. Okay, I think that's all the points. Oh, but I just don't have any idea how many people will be killed by a bad debt thing and all that. I don't think we should do austerity in the first place. I don't think it's going to be like the 2008 thing. If we did this lockdown really well, like China have done, or South Korea, I mean, I don't think it's going to cost that as much money as a massive recession. And I think there are ways to get out of recessions pretty fast if the government shows some dynamic thinking, which they clearly seem to be totally lacking. But anyway, okay, so those are my thoughts. Keep up the good videos. I hope you're all. I didn't really have time to talk about myself in the lockdown, as you suggested. We do, Noel, but I think the video's gone on long enough, and me and my family are fine. We're all locked down, and I'm an antisocial bastard too, so that's all fine. Anyway, all the best to all of you in these difficult times.